All right, I've marked back for the episode of Carnivore Trades. Today is Wednesday, April 17th, 2024. If you've not done so already, please give the video a thumbs up, like, comment, subscribe to the channel. Come find me on carnivoretrades.com for swing trading alerts, analysis, and live day trading. Anyways, let's get into it today. So markets here today. Again, another gap up and a gap and crap type scenario. That's about 4 days in a row now. So or I should say 3. So we had the gap down here, but day after that, gapping up slightly yesterday, and then a gap up today. Each day with a lower high, right? So if we take a look here, intraday, gapping up into lower highs, never really a good sign. And you can take a trend line here as well, connect it through the highs, and you can see that that's kind of where we've been seeing resistance here intraday. We did get down to, very close to 5K. You can see it right there. It was right there. There you go. It's a 5 handle. We got down to 5,007, and they defended it for now. I talked about this. There was, I've been talking about it all day long. There's a lot of GEX there at 5K for today, probably tomorrow and Friday as well. So I would think that right now, downside is very limited here. I would still expect, though, for this market to bottom. I know it seems obvious, but I think you need a gap down. You need to flush it out. First 30 minutes, push through 5K, get into the gap maybe. You have the weekly 20 MA right here at 49.67, 49.70. The 100 MA is down here at 49.30 or so. That's a little. That would be an extreme. I don't think we would get through that at all. That would be kind of the extreme target. But either way, downside I think is pretty limited here. It is an OPEX week. You got to figure there's a lot of open interest right at that 5K strike on both sides. We're probably not going to get too far away from that in either direction, at least not until after Friday. But I think right now, even though sellers are in control, the downside I think here is a little bit limited. So if we were to be able to get a gap down and some type of a flush into this area, I think your risk reward here is pretty good for a bounce. Now I think the bounce will result in lower highs. This is the first leg of the down move. Usually the first leg of a bear is going to be the weakest one. But right now we're definitely getting close to that. We're starting to get a little bit divergent here. I know we talked about the hourly time frame. And you can see there, starting to get that higher lows here on the RSI. We've actually had that since yesterday, but we still managed to crack below today. So again, doesn't tell us that we're going to bounce necessarily, but it means that we're getting close to an area where we would likely expect that to happen. So in any case, markets here today down 58 basis points. The triple Qs notably were the weakest index, down 1.22%. So a pretty good sell there for the Qs. We did get into the gap there on the NASDAQ at 425.61. I think low of the day here. Yeah, 424.90. So we got pretty close. And then you have obviously the 100 MA respectively to the SPX, which is a little bit closer on the Qs. So I wouldn't think there's much more downside past 420 on the Qs here. At least not in the near term. Maybe could it go a little, pierce a little bit lower? It always can. You can always overshoot. But I think markets here, and again, pretty good breakdown here. We went nowhere for a month. This is all distribution, right? So we weren't going higher, but we weren't going lower either, and we're going lower now, which tells us that big money was selling into that. Even though they were upgrading SMCI, upgrading NVIDIA, upgrading Microsoft, upgrading all these AI plays constantly, they were fishing for exit liquidity. So ever since we broke that trend line, distribution here, and we are headed lower here. On the NASDAQ, ASML reporting earnings, and that stock took a pretty good hit, down 7% today. That's a big reason for the weakness in the semis. Obviously, you can see a little trend line right there, getting snapped pretty good. NVIDIA, we'll talk about the semis in a minute, but NVIDIA down quite a bit here. Broadcom was also down as well. So some of those bigger names on the weaker side in tech land, and we'll talk about IGV as well. That is in some trouble here. So again, tech, the weakest. Even the Russell 2000 was up more than the NASDAQ, only down down less than the NASDAQ, only down 1%. Still a gap and crap day, an engulfing candle, which is interesting because it was at the lows. Usually when you get an engulfing candle, it's kind of like at the highs after a big move, but engulfing here, I don't know, maybe this wants the 200. It's certainly possible. I would think that would certainly hold. That would be our first test of it since we broke out. So again, I don't really see a ton of downside here for the Russell in the short term. You got the 200 weekly right here that we're sitting into. But again, as soon as you close below those big wide range green bars especially on a weekly time frame, there's a reason why I always harp about it. It's because they matter, and you're seeing this just hemorrhage 4 days in a row after that. So weakness there on the Russell. Dow hanging on here. Again, down just 14 basis points. Again, when the market is down, you're going to see money kind of flow into safety, flow into large caps. I think utilities are even up today. Yeah, XLU up 2%. We also got a bid in bonds. So, a TLT here. I think this is a little overdone. It's no secret I've been a bond bear for a long time, but I'm still willing to talk about when it's oversold and can be a bounce play. And bonds getting a little bit of a bid here, and again you saw utilities come up. Definitely a little bit more of a traditional risk off type look here today. Semis, again, we have TSM reporting tomorrow, so that's going to be a big deal. Did it get priced in with ASML? That remains to be seen. You do have a little trend line here that got sliced. We back checked to it today. And we fell over here. So again, I can't tell you which way a stock's going to go on earnings. It's one of the true wild cards that you'll find. But good little slice there. And TSM reporting also Netflix tomorrow after the bell, so that will move tech. But SMH losing the 50 moving average for the first time since we broke it in October, and it did it on volume too. So not really liking what I'm seeing from the semis here. Again, doesn't mean they can't bounce, but you now have, guess what? 1282 is your low. We now have a daily lower high and a lower low set up with volume confirmation. So semi is definitely weaker here. Ultimately, I think maybe 2000. There's a little bit of support at 205 or 200. There's 205 and then 200. There's a little bit of support as well. You got the 100 MA. There's some decent levels here, but semi's in trouble here. For those of you who follow the stocks, even weaker. That looks like it wants that 100 moving average. There's a gap there as well at about 44.50. Or, yeah, 44.50 and then 4,400 even is where the 100 is. And then you've got your previous high at like about 42. Cloud. So we lost this pivot the other day. We'll see if they can reclaim it by the end of the week. But right now, bear's in control here. So again, we've talked about that a lot. If that does get taken out, this is kind of your big level down here, around $75. Let me get that a little bit better. So right there, you can even drag it across all the way down over to 2022. So right in this area, 73, 75. You got the 50-week moving average right up in that area as well. So, and then the 200 at 76.50, pivot low right there. So there's some levels here, but this is ultimately like your macro big breakout that we had late last year. So it would make sense if that got back checked too. But again, cloud continuing to be on the weaker side, and technology really took the hit today. The transports took the hit today as well. Look at the volume there. JB Hunt was the culprit. Big slice there, down 8%. That's a big move for a trucking stock. CSX down 2%. We did have the airlines hold up though. UAL, look at this big pop here. New highs. I had a little fib there for a day trade. New highs though, good volume there, and that helped out the jets, which if that wasn't the case, the transports would have been down a lot more. So again, weekly, you guys know the drill here. 15198.95, closing below that would be a big negative. So we'll see if they can save it. They got 2 days, and again, if spiders hold 5K and get a V shape tomorrow morning, it might happen. So that's why we want to go on that weekly close, because it's a weekly pattern. All right, rates here. So 2-year, again, just consolidating. So again, nothing wrong. You guys know what I'm going to say. 20 MA catches up and go higher. But now I'm wondering and kind of getting the feel that it's like there's a lot of buzz now about like, oh, the Fed's not going to be able to cut. They're saying the same things that I've been saying for the last 2 years. And now the market is kind of just figuring it out. So I'm kind of in that camp now that rates may be getting a little top heavy, right? People are late to the party here. 30-year backing off today, backing off of 475. We talked about that. That was my target since December when I talked about the rates not going any farther down. And you got the 10-year here back checking to this trend line as well. Actually, you got two trend lines there. So actually, honestly, I'd favor bonds for a bounce here. I talked about TLT a minute ago. And yeah, I mean, you're kind of going into a little supply or demand zone right there. And you got a good bounce today. So I think, 92, maybe 94 for TLT is reasonable. And I think the 30-year, you got to go back check down to 4 or 5 potentially. Again, I'm not taking that trade necessarily. Maybe I will. But, it's like now everybody's figuring out things that I thought it was pretty obvious, at least to me it was, which is that it's going to be hard for the Fed to cut. 2 years at 5%, they can't cut. So that's sort of the gist of it. The 2-year yield's still holding up, though. So, let me just go back. So essentially what that means is you're getting that potentially a steepener. Still not quite there yet, but, or excuse me, the inverse on the short end. So 2-year going up, longer rates going down. Anyway, XHB, again, down 78 cents. Finally showing some weakness for first time in a while. Didn't take out yesterday's low, though. But ultimately, I mean, I don't think there's a ton more downside here for XHB in the short run. But again, those rate cuts getting priced out, hurting the home builders. Who could have predicted that? Price of lumber also coming down quite a bit, too, over the last couple of weeks. Definitely a little bit of support here at 100 and then, 97 to 98 in the short term. VNQ took another good hit today. I was really hoping this would just bounce a little bit because I wanted to short this thing. But 1, 2, 3, 4 days down in a row. Again, big failure on the weekly. So VNQ in trouble. XLF also seeing some, also under a little bit of pressure lately, but today getting a bounce. It ended up closing green. So green and down tape didn't do terrible, and believe it or not, what else was green today? Guess what? KRE was up 8 cents. Go figure. So that's hanging in there okay. I still don't really like it, especially on the bigger time frame, but it was green in a down tape. KBE was up 5 cents in a down tape too, and that's the trend line we need to hold by Friday. Broker dealers were lower. Nothing terrible though, but I still ultimately think this is headed down to 560. Oil took a spill today, so oil may be done here. So we're going to come back into this trend line one more time. It's happened a lot, and we'll see where it finishes the week. Was really hoping for it to get up to 90 and change. I was really hoping to be able to get to fade it up there, but it did back off pretty sharply. And again, right now, I'd say 82 to 82.50 is going to be short-term support after that $80. But this needs to firm up by the end of the week. Otherwise, I think this trade's done here for the time being. XLE. So again, kind of get what I'm saying here. Like, it just as everybody's figuring it out, or at least the majority of market pikers are just figuring it out that rates are sticky. Now it's like that trade can unwind because you have too many people on one side. And you're seeing that with oil, I think. XLE, same thing. But it did hold this level. So, it was down today, but only down 27 cents, and it's still holding support. So I think XLE is still okay. For now, I wouldn't want to see it break back below that, especially on a weekly close. That would be a negative. And in fact, even, right here, 94.71, because that was actually the 52-week high. Let me just put that in exactly. So a weekly close back below that would be, you can make a case that's a failed breakout. But short term, it's still okay. We'll see where it closes at the end of the week. XOP also on the weaker side, but didn't take out yesterday's low. And same thing with OIH. This is coming into support, though. 50 MA and then that 320 handle. That would be your first level down. So maybe it pierces a little bit, and then I think you get a bounce there. So you're seeing these trades kind of unwind here. And that's just how it works. The boat gets loaded to one side, and everybody who's late to the party ends up buying at the top or shorting the lows. So anyway, CCJ here up 22 cents, still holding up just fine. No problems with that pattern. URNM, is flat, nothing terrible. And the NJ here was green. So uranium's still fine. Nothing really to add to that. Nat Gas got a little bit of a bid today. So a little outside move, or I should say outside of the body of yesterday's. This is getting interesting here. It had that big squeeze yesterday afternoon, then it popped right back down, had another one, popped right back down, and then it rallied back up. It's almost getting the sense that shorts are having a little bit of trouble keeping it down here. And Nat Gas is very heavily shorted, just in case you're unaware. Sometimes when the market underperforms, Nat Gas will overperform. I think a lot of that, by the way, this is a fact. The high here was actually 1020. Yeah, well, we had a higher high there, but on 1027 we had a lower high technically, but 1027 was the day the spiders bottomed, and Nat Gas topped out there and had that big leg down. So there's almost kind of an inverse correlation sometimes. I think part of that is there's so many shorts in it that when you get a bear phase in the equities and you get margin calling and stuff like that, these funds were all piled into the same trade, like short Nat Gas. They have to sell their winners like this to cover, and you get those pops. So it almost looks like shorts kind of just running out of control here, or losing control of price. We'll see what it does here. You got this little wedge, falling wedge there for a natty, but it's holding up right now. So we'll keep an eye on that. Definitely think it's getting attractive. Dollar index pulling back, and again 106.50. We talked about a lot of resistance up here, and it did pull back today. 105.50 and 105 are your supports short term. Again, same thing. Bonds up, dollar down. Again, the dollar's had a big run, but now everybody's scared of inflation. They weren't scared for the last 5-6 months. Now they're all scared, and now we're seeing the dollar pull in. All right, gold here was down as well today. Nothing really terrible here, but again, still inside of that red tail candle with volume. So I'm kind of in the camp that this is a local high. For now, it's still in a strong technical position. If we were to close below this 2340 area, I think that would indicate more backing and filling, possibly down to 2250. I think that's your next big level there for gold. Silver also, it was green today, but it did back off the highs again. This is still a sell signal until proven otherwise. Big support down here at 26 and change. Platinum also backing off here, so that's down. That was down 2%. Got a little support here in the moving averages. There's also a little bit of a short-term trend line right here we could look at. So lower highs and possible higher lows. We'll see if it starts to form a wedge to complement this bigger trend line here. But platinum backing off. Palladium was up 37 basis points. Nothing great, nothing terrible on that front. And copper remains strong. I still think you got maybe that little hanging man there was a sell signal. No follow through though, and it was still very strong today. It's still holding up well. So copper still bucking the trend right now. All right, Bitcoin, lastly, continuing to back off. So we talked about an immature bear flag. It's starting to play out. I don't think there's a ton of downside here in the short term. We have the halving in a few days. A lot of people are like excited about that. The thing with that is, I get asked about this. It's not like a black swan or a white swan, whatever you want to call it. It's not like something that we don't know about, right? The whole market knows about it, right? So you have to think to a degree it's priced in, right? So I don't really know how it's going to trade based off of that. It's not like all of a sudden, the halving happens and that's it, 100K like the next day. Like it's not how it works, right? Just like when a stock reports great earnings and the stock's up 30% before that quarter, that's a lot harder to wow the market. So this is not something that's coming out of left field that nobody can see coming. So I don't really know how we can make too much out of that right now. But short term, right in this area, you got the pivot low, you got the 100 MA. I think that's a good area for a bounce for Bitcoin here for now. So again, markets here. Let me just check the futures. Just want to see if we're doing anything after that little close. Yeah, nothing really going on there. So again, I think you need a gap down. I know it seems obvious, but that's just kind of how it works a lot of the time. I don't see us getting much past 5K unless a tidal wave of something or a black swan or something crazy like that. So anyways, guys, going to wrap it up here. You guys take care. Come find me on carnivoretrades.com. I will see you guys all tomorrow.